greatest thrill. They've tried and failed.
You're dealing with the creme de la creme.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Scratchcast, the alternative pop culture podcast. I'm Snedds, your host, and as the official podcast of the Head Scratcher, we'll be bringing you discussions on all things alternative pop culture in the coming weeks. We'll upload a new podcast at least once a month covering alternative music, and in the future we hope to expand to covering film, TV, gaming and more. To find out more about the Head Scratcher, head on over to our website at www.theheadscratcher.com, check out our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram at The Head Scratcher or on Twitter at ScratcherHead. We upload original articles at least once a month, share the best pop culture news from around the web regularly, and at the end of every month compile an epic playlist of new alternative music for your oral pleasure. We've been going for 2 years now, and this podcast forms part of our birthday celebration. In this first episode, I'm joined by my good friend Grant Patterson to discuss new albums from Dinosaur Pile-Up, Jamie Lenman, Gender Roles and Press Club. So sit back, relax and enjoy two nobodies sharing their thoughts on some great music.
Lovely slurping noises.
Just adds to the intensity and the experience as a whole, I think, Sness.
It does. Okay, so are we going to talk about celebrity mansions?
Yeah, we'll talk about that first. To be honest, I wasn't really all that familiar with Dinosaur Pile-Up's stuff. I'd heard of Growing Pains, but I never actually realised that was a name of one of their albums. For some reason I got it into my head that it was a name of one of their songs. Is that the case?
I didn't even know that was an album. So I'm
making that up. I seem to remember seeing somewhere a picture of presumably the lead singer or lead guitarist, and underneath it said Growing Pains.
Yeah, we probably should do that more
Bit more
research.
research.
But basically, my knowledge of Dinosaur Pile-Up is just their really early stuff. So, like in 2008, they had a single out called My Rock and Roll.
Right.
So really sort of grungy, like big riffs. It's a really good track, and on the back of that I went deep into some of the demos and things he had, more of the same alt rock, really good tracks. But by the time the first album actually ended up coming out, it left me a little bit cold. Thought it was a bit overproduced. I didn't think the songs were all that good, so kind of after that I just forgot about them, and it wasn't really until there was a bit of buzz for this new album coming out that I started to pay attention again.
Yeah.
So all that stuff in between I just kind of forgot about. Maybe I should have gone back in at some point to see what they were doing, but there's so much stuff you just forget about in bands.
No, absolutely. I mean, even Pixies, like my favourite band, I feel as if some of their stuff has passed me by, which is pretty sad considering I rate them as being one of my most favourite bands. Certainly, I know this is kind of going off topic a wee bit, but the Head Carrier album, I never knew that existed until Ali turned up with it on vinyl for me. He was visiting my house, he was like, you should have this. I was like, great. Turns out it wasn't actually all that great an album, to be honest. It just kind of passed me by. I think because there is such a wealth of music out there now, and I've been, I suppose, somewhat of a Luddite until fairly recently. I suppose I'm still quite old school in the way I kind of consume music. I still quite like having CDs and vinyls and stuff like that, whereas obviously there's been a shift away from that, and people are accessing music in a different way now. It's through the likes of kind of Spotify and what have you.
Yeah, I'm the same. I like to have physical copies of albums. It's usually the stuff that I love from over the years that I've got physically, but I like to keep up on what's coming out, so Spotify's good for that. But there's so much stuff. I mean, there's so many different albums come out every Friday that it's really difficult to keep up. But I think Celebrity Mansions by Dinosaur Pile-Up is a really good example of good music that's coming out just now.
Yeah, I did enjoy it, I have to admit. I listened to it quite a few times. To be fair, I'm not too sure if it is actually the first song on the album, because up until fairly recently I had just the free edition of Spotify. So I just had to listen to everything on shuffle play.
Yeah.
And I'm not a great fan of doing that, because I do feel as if albums have to be appreciated as a whole, to be honest.
And you should probably listen to them in the order they were
in a sequential
to,
fashion. And again, this is kind of going off topic a wee bit, but I'm a fan of MGMT. I remember when they kind of first came out. Their first album, I think, came out, I want to say, kind of early 2000s anyway, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Oracular Spectacular, and that was
2004?
Something like that. Yeah, I was going to say 2005, but yeah, somewhere along that. Wasn't it too long after we left school Sned. way back when. And I remember there was a bit of controversy around about the time because I think they liked what they did. However, I think a lot of people, or the mainstream, kind of latched on for the likes of Kids and Time to Pretend. So their kind of second and third album was a complete move away from those kind of songs that could just be released as singles or what have you. I think they just wanted people to kind of appreciate the album as a whole. So I have went back to kind of listen to Celebrity Mansions in a kind of sequential fashion, as it were. So I take it the first song on the album is Celebrity Mansions. Would that be correct in saying?
No, Celebrity Mansions is the fourth track on the album.
Oh right, okay.
The first track is Thrash Metal Cassette, which coincidentally was the first single that came out. That's the song that got me excited for this album because it's a fucking rager, for want of a better word.
It's funny. I was immediately reminded of Storm the Gates, the Tenacious D song from Pick of Destiny album.
Okay.
But yeah, that's probably one of my favourite songs on the album, and I thought the kind of chorus of Singing Girls towards the end was probably a bit of a stroke of genius.
Yeah, it's very much in the vein of, you familiar with baby metal?
I'm not.
So baby metal are like, I think they're Japanese, maybe Korean. They're a metal band and they're fronted by singing girls.
Yeah.
So they're big like metal riffs and then like singing schoolgirls. But so the end of it's a bit like baby metal, but there's a song by Faith No More called Be Aggressive, which has got like a cheerleader chant at the end. It conjures up memories of that for me, and that's a great song if you haven't heard it. But yeah, a brilliant song.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's funny you say that because I did immediately think of Japanese girls in school uniforms for some reason.
Okay, well,
singing that song. Yeah, I really like Long Way Down as well.
So Long Way Down's actually the final track on the album.
Right.
But as an album closer, there's 10 tracks I think on this album.
Mm-hmm.
So after 9 fairly high-paced tracks, you get a sort of mournful slow burner, but it's still quite a powerful song.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really good way to end the album, I think.
I really enjoyed it. I quite like that kind of call and answer type chorus that they have going on. I thought it was really good. Really enjoyed it. Also really, really enjoyed Stupid Heavy Metal Broken Hearted Loser Punk.
Yeah,
which is a bit of a mouthful.
It's a great title, I think. So actually the first 3 tracks are Thrash Metal Cassette, Backfoot and Stupid Heavy Metal Broken Hearted Loser Punk. That's possibly my favourite song on the album, just to try and sing along to, because the chorus is a bit of a tongue twister.
Absolutely. And
so trying to join in with that without messing it up is really difficult, but when you pull it off you feel like a champ.
Mm-hmm. So
it's definitely one of the best songs on the album. There's a bit, I think, as it's just coming into the second chorus, well, it's just after the chorus, so there's that sort of wrapped Stupid Heavy Metal Broken Hearted Loser Punk chorus, and there's like a bicycle bell noise or a triangle comes in.
I've got, did I hear a bicycle bell? Written down on my notes.
Yeah, and that, I don't know why I like that so much, but
yeah, it's interesting.
I think it's an underused instrument.
Do you think that could replace the cowbell?
I think it should replace the cowbell. I imagine Slipknot using a triangle.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Backfoot, since those are the first 3 sort of opening flurry of tracks?
Yeah, it wasn't one of the songs that immediately stood out for me. I can't remember being a massive fan of his vocals in that.
Yeah, it's like I kind of likened it to a sort of slacker white guy rap.
That's exactly
what
I've got.
It's like maybe a bit like The Offspring if you think of like Pretty Fly for a White Guy, or like Original Prankster. Like that kind of,
yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah,
that kind of stuff. And to be fair, I really like that. So I don't think it's for everyone, but I actually really like those vocals.
It's funny you say that because in my notes here I've just said Backfoot, white men rapping question mark. Which yeah, but no, I can definitely see the similarities with the likes of Offspring and what have you.
I think the fact that they're not taking themselves too seriously is the reason I like it. If it was that trying to be like Eminem or something, okay, he doesn't take himself seriously either, but
no,
that's maybe a bad example. But if they were trying to be serious about his rapping, I don't think I would enjoy it quite so much.
Yeah,
it's all very tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Celebrity Mansions then.
Okay.
Since you were going to start with that, let's track 4.
I don't know if you got this, and I don't know if this was deliberate or not, to be perfectly honest, but I was immediately reminded about Beverly Hills by Weezer. That's
Yeah.
what it reminded me of.
Yeah, it's exactly that. I've written gangster attitude Weezer. It's what I've got.
Weezer
here.
with a gangster attitude.
Yeah, basically. But Beverly Hills is all over this, and there's like just cheeky little bits where he's like, "What up? What up?" It's just totally ridiculous, but it's something that you would expect Rivers Cuomo to do. But you know, it's a pretty good song. I think it's better than Beverly Hills, I would say. I'm not the biggest fan of that song, and maybe that was just because I was used to a different kind of Weezer.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
So I think I prefer Celebrity Mansions to Beverly Hills. It's a good tune.
Yeah.
This one in fact has more triangle. So this is the one I was thinking on the, as it comes into the second chorus, there's a sort of chugging riff, and then like a little triangle tinkle, and then it just slams into the chorus. So that's a good moment, I think. One of my favourite moments on the album.
What do we have after that?
Next one is Round the Bend, which is basically, it just opens with a sort of straightforward punk rock riff that you've heard millions of times before, and then it's got a pretty big chorus, a fun chorus, but you know, with cliched lyrics of about going round the bend and what, you know, that
Kind of going off track.
exactly. I don't think there's anything on the song that you haven't really heard before. There's a good bit in it, I think about midway through, where the sort of all the production layers fall away and it fades into like an acoustic demo where he's just singing the vocals with a muffled acoustic guitar. It's, you know, one verse and then everything slams back in for the final chorus. So it's quite a good dramatic effect. A good song, but there's plenty of better ones, I think. No thoughts on Round the Bend?
No, nothing really.
Okay, so the next one we've got is Pouring Gasoline.
I did like Pouring Gasoline.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that one. Again, I thought it kind of maybe hailed back to some of the kind of punk rock kind of sensibilities, some of the other songs, with obviously being a fan of kind of punk rock. Yeah, what was your thoughts on it?
So I think this is a Foo Fighters song.
Oh really? A cover of that?
No, I just think it sounds like a mixture of a few different Foo Fighters songs to me. There's bits of Monkey Wrench in it. All My Life and the Pretender. There's the vocal part that goes Out on My Own and Alone Again, and it starts off quite toned down and it builds and it builds and it builds and it sort of powers into this big scream at the end. There are moments exactly like that in both the Pretender and All My Life. Like I said, there's Monkey Wrench all over this song, so it feels like a big mash of Foo Fighters, but Foo Fighters when they were still good. They've kind of turned into a bit of a bland stadium rock act, in my opinion. But you know, back when they were sort of at the height of their powers. So I really like Pouring Gasoline as well, but because it reminds me of that classic era Foo Fighters, which was the only time that I was actually into Foo Fighters. So
I'm afraid kind of Foo Fighters have kind of passed me by to the most part. There is a few songs that I like. Is it All My Life?
Is it All My Life? All My Life I've been looking for something new.
Yes.
I fuck up the lyrics there, but
yeah, I was particularly impressed by that. I remember buying that as a single. Again, must have been early kind of 2000s when that first came out. Would that be right? Would that be correct to say?
Possibly. I mean, that's the only. I don't know. I can't remember if the album is called All My Life as well, but it's the only Foo Fighters album I've ever bought. And it's pretty good.
Is that the one that's got the bison on it?
Is it not like a bleeding heart or something on it?
I remember the single has like a kind of bleeding heart on it, but I don't know what the album covers.
I think the album's got that too.
I don't know where maybe I'm thinking of like a Foo Fighters t-shirt or something.
Maybe. So Pouring Gasoline's a good listen if you're into Foo Fighters or some classic punk rock. Then we got Black Limousine, which it opens with basically the riff from Round the Bend, but an acoustic version of it, and then it goes into a sort of muted verse, which reminded me of the Smashing Pumpkins a little bit. And it sort of just rumbles along, and then it's got a pretty massive chorus that is just a lot of fun to sing along to. And I've said that stupid heavy metal, broken hearted loser punk is possibly my favourite song, but I think Black Limousine's the best song.
Right, from the album.
I think it's the best song on the album in terms of just how good a song it is. I think that would be my pick.
It's interesting because long way down in Black Limousines, the two that stand out for me,
Yeah.
if I'm being perfectly honest. Although, again, I mean, you can't overlook thrash metal cassette.
I mean, it's interesting because those are the two songs where they sort of rein it back a little bit. It's not quite so like
Black Limousine and Long Way Down.
Long Way Down. It's
Absolutely.
not. It's not. A lot of the other tracks are really thundering and pacey and a little bit tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Whereas those are possibly more serious and a bit more laid back. They're not necessarily less powerful, especially not in the case of Black Limousine. But yeah, they're slightly more restrained.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really focus too much on the lyrics to Long Way Down, but it does kind of feel as if it's a message to somebody from what I remember from the kind of opening lyrics. And I remember thinking that would probably be quite a big crowd pleaser for that kind of call and answer.
Mm-hmm.
You could just imagine the crowd kind of being into that at kind of one of their gigs. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not.
Yeah, I think similarly Black Limousine would be a crowd pleaser just for that, just having a huge sing along chorus.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to sing along to. It's quite easy to join in with. Like whereas
Like
some
stupid heavy
like
metal
I mean
fucking
that's
that
difficult. Or if you're like trying to scream the chorus from thrash metal cassette or whatever.
Yeah.
The next song is K West.
Yeah, that was a strange one. See,
Yeah.
when I saw it appear on like the album list, I thought it would have something to do with Kanye West,
So
but
did
I
I,
think
yeah.
it must have something to do with a venue of sorts.
I had told you this up last
Or a
night
bar.
because I didn't know what it was, and I'd like you had assumed it was something to do with Kanye West, but
yeah,
it's actually a hotel in Shepherd's Bush.
really. So somewhere in
Um,
London.
Yeah, and it's, I think, from what I could gather, it's where sort of music artists stay and they get interviewed there and
Right,
that sort of
okay.
thing. So it's sort of a cool rock hotel, whatever that means.
Right. So,
So-
Hotel California of sorts.
I don't know about that.
Because supposedly that, I mean, I don't know if you know the Eagles song Hotel California. I don't think the hotel in question was actually called Hotel California, but I suppose it must have been based somewhere in California. But apparently it was somewhere where the musicians at the time stopped off
Right, okay.
in their tours.
So well, probably is
Maybe
quite
it's
similar to that then. So, I mean, the song itself is basically just about being a fucking rock star and
Dripping mayonnaise down your shirt.
exactly watching the game with Dwayne Johnson,
He's
having
all
dinner
over
with
that
Jay-Z. So it's basically everything that Dinosaur Pile-Up are not.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of this album is about how they're a relatively struggling rock band, and then this song is like the antithesis of that, where they're just like, yeah, we're rich, bitch, and these are all the extravagant things that we do. And it's, I think on first listen I was a bit like, yeah, this is a bit throwaway, but I definitely warmed it. Going back to Weezer again,
Mm-hmm.
have you heard the Black Album?
Weezer's Black Album, I don't know if I have actually.
So it came out earlier this year.
What's that got on it? Is there any singles that have been released?
Yes. I'll have to check.
To be honest, I haven't really heard much of Weezer of late. The only things that I have heard Weezer do recently is the cover of Africa
Yeah.
by Toto. Is it Toto? It's Toto, isn't
It's
it?
Toto, yeah. Is it? Yeah, it is Toto.
It's Toto. Yeah.
I'm thinking that's a dog from
From Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, but I think it's Toto.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Can't Knock the Hustle, Zombie Bastards, Living in LA, and High as a Kite. I think those were all the singles that were released before the album came out. Basically, the Black Album is like ridiculous. It's like stupid pop songs that sound nothing like Weezer, and it's just Rivers Cuomo having a laugh, basically.
Right.
But it's kind of fun. I quite enjoyed it.
Is there a cover of Africa on that?
No, what they did, that was actually a sort of promotional tool for the Black Album. They released an album called the Teal Album. So
Right.
the Teal Album is just a bunch of 80s covers,
Right.
and Africa is one of them. So they released that ahead of the Black Album, I think, to sort of get people talking about Weezer again. But actually, the Africa cover was, somebody on Twitter was just hammering Rivers Cuomo with like, I want you to cover Toto's Africa.
Right.
And then it became like a movement, and eventually Weezer like trolled this person by covering a different song.
All right. Okay.
Like, so they covered, I don't know what the song was, but they covered like a Toto song that nobody cares about, because Africa is the only Toto song that anyone knows.
Only song that I know.
So they covered that, and then I think a few weeks later they were like, actually they covered Africa, but all they did was re-record it exactly as the original. They didn't put any kind of Weezer spin on it or anything, and the Tio album is exactly like that. All of the songs are just straight up covers.
Did they cover Erasure's A Little Respect? Am I just making that up?
Wasn't that
Wheatus did a cover,
yeah, I was about to say,
which is fantastic.
It is fantastic. Yeah.
That is a fantastic album. I don't think if Wheatus ever did another album, but it's got a lot of good songs on it.
Do you remember we used to go to a bar in Aberdeen called The Basement, where the frontman of Wheatus used to work?
Really?
Well, no, he didn't used to. He didn't used to work. It's just a guy that looked exactly like him. And I used to, every time we were there, I was like, yeah, it's the guy from Wheatus.
All right, man.
And he usually overheard me and gave me shitty looks for calling him that.
Interestingly,
which is fair enough.
I may or may not have told you this story. When I went to see Evan Dando at one of the clubs in Glasgow, venues in Glasgow, I can't remember what it's called. It's SW something or other. It looks like
SWG 13. Is that what it's called?
Something along those lines anyway. I saw Evan Dando playing an acoustic set with, I can't remember the name of the woman, but it was the woman who provided the vocals on It's a Shame About Ray.
Okay.
So probably their most kind of famous album. We went over to the bar, me and young Thomas went over to the bar and got served our drinks, and I remember turning to Tom afterwards and saying, I'm pretty sure I recognise that barman. And he's like, how I'm not going to do Tom's accent.
Tom's Irish, so
yeah.
can offend anyone listening who's Irish.
We don't want to be doing that. Anyway, yeah, so I'd said to him, like, I recognise this guy, and he's like, where do you recognise him from? Did you meet him on a night out or what have you? I was like, no, I don't think so. I think he's the lead singer of Dan and Anna Aykroyd.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it turns out it was. He went over and asked him, are you the lead singer from Dan and Anna Aykroyd? And right enough, it was him. And I think some of the rest of the band members were there at the time as well. I think they went on and became another band, formed another band called False Alarm, but it's not a band that I've really kind of looked into all that much. Yeah, that was a bit of a
detour.
Bit of a detour.
So, overall thoughts on K West? It's alright.
Yeah.
It's alright. So then the last two are Professional Freak and Long Way Down. So for me, Professional Freak is a bit more like an upbeat version of Silverchair's Freak.
Right, okay.
Now, they're not too similar, but you've got this refrain of I'm a professional freak, and you know, Silverchair's song is Freak, Body and Soul, I'm a freak. So it's a bit like Silverchair. That song came out the late 90s, early 2000s, and now it's sort of those freaks have answered the call and they're now making their own music, and that's just my take on it. But I think it's a good song. There's something to be said for driving about singing I'm a professional freak with the windows down. There are songs that I prefer on the album, like I said before, but I do really like Professional Freak. It's really infectious.
What would you give the album if you were to rate it as a whole? What would you rate it?
I wrote a review of this album for Kill Your Stereo, who are an Australian rock and metal website. So I have reviewed this album. I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Right.
I think it's a pretty solid album.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
And I think it's only sort of weird moments like K West that sort of drag it down a little bit. Maybe some of the vocals aren't for everyone, but it came out I think in June, and I was listening to this constantly for pretty much the whole of July. I just couldn't stop listening to it, and I wasn't just listening to single tracks, I was listening to it front to back.
Yeah.
It's over in 30 minutes, so there's no reason why you can't just listen to it. You get a spare half an hour, you just blast this album on. So I think it's a really good album, and for anyone who likes 90s-ish, early 2000s alt rock, bit of punk, I think anybody who's interested in that kind of thing will love this album. How do you feel about it? If you had to give a score, what would you give it?
I scored it out of 5
Okay.
as opposed to out of 10. I give it a 2.5 out of 5. I was quite conservative.
Quite conservative.
In my rating. I did enjoy it, however I wouldn't immediately go back to it time and time again. There's maybe other bands that we'll maybe go on to kind of discuss, or other albums that we're maybe going to go on to discuss I would have preferred or do prefer.
Okay, so that's a 5 out of 10, Grant.
Yes. 5 out of your possible 10, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's forget about scores, because your score is completely wrong. But if you like the sound of Celebrity Mansions by Dinosaur Pile-Up, give it a shot. If you're like me, you'll think it's brilliant. And if you're like Grant, you'll like it and then give it a score that doesn't reflect how much you like it. That's harsh, actually. Okay, I think we talked more about
Random shit
than we did about Dinosaur Pile-Up then. So, do you want to just go in straight into Shuffle then?
Yeah.
So this is the latest album from Jamie Lenman, former frontman of Reuben, because you always have to mention that. And Shuffle is a covers album, and it's, I suppose, quite apt that we were talking about Weezer's The Teal album before, because that's a covers album with no creative flair whatsoever. It's just a straight up, these are the songs we're going to cover, and let's just record them in exactly the same way as the original artist performed them. And Shuffle couldn't be any more different to that, I think it's fair to say.
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I remember seeing Jamie Lenman as part of Lenmania.
Road to Lenmania. It was leading up to the full Lenmania stage at 2003's festival.
When did we see him? June, July time?
Yeah, beginning of July.
And we saw him in a stunning venue, St Luke's and the Winged Ox.
That's right,
his full title. Quite close to the Barrowlands in Glasgow. And I remember thinking, he's an artist in every sense of the word. I know that might sound quite grandiose and maybe a bit over the top, to be perfectly honest, but I think everything that he does is deliberate but not in a contrived way. I think he's very conscious of his image and how that impacts on his product, I suppose, as it were, as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think this album stands as a testament to that, to be perfectly honest, because I don't think there'd be many artists out there that would think about covering, say, bands as random as, well, we've got the Beatles. There's 2 Beatles tracks on that album.
Yeah.
We've got the theme tune from Taxi Driver, the Martin Scorsese movie.
There's a couple of theme tunes. There's Taxi Driver. There's Popeye, which we'll talk about again later. Adamantium Rage. It's a theme tune for an old Super NES game. I think that's it for soundtrack. There's another song, some love song for a vampire, which is on the soundtrack for Bram Stoker's Dracula. So there's a few random things on here, and it's clear that everything on here is just music that Jamie is really fond of and has wanted to put his own spin on it. Taking Popeye as an extreme example of it. I mean, if you know Popeye the cartoon and you think back to the sort of jolly sailor theme tune, and then you listen to Jamie Lemon's version, which is just 1 minute of someone blasting like a shotgun into your face.
Yes, I think that's
it's quite amazing how he's taken that simple theme and just turned it into a minute of fury. And it's got a ridiculous video with him, basically a shirtless Popeye downing a can of spinach.
Mm-hmm.
So I think where you've said that you think he's an artist,
no, absolutely,
in that sort of all-encompassing way, I think you're completely right, because I mean, everything to do with this album, Popeye came as the first single, and it had this video to go along with it, and everything is just controlled in a specific way and the way Jamie wants it to be. And I think you mentioned it as an overall product. I think product is probably quite a cynical word.
Yeah.
So it is a product, but not in that sort of cynical sense as a manufactured sort of thing.
I mean, I was quite impressed. Like I said, you know, that we've already kind of mentioned that there's 2 Beatles tracks on there. I never actually knew that Tomorrow Never Knows was a Beatles track. I kind of had to do a wee bit of kind of investigating into that, and I've since kind of listened to. But like I said, you know, we've got the 2 Beatles tracks on there, the Taxi Driver theme tune, which again was a highlight for me. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I could just imagine sitting in some sort of jazz type lounge listening to that. At one point, I was reminded of Gary Moore.
Okay.
So one of Gary Moore's kind of, I suppose, most famous tracks, Parisian Walkways. if you've kind of heard of that.
I don't know it.
I'm not actually familiar with the Taxi Driver's theme tune, but yeah, I was immediately reminded by kind of Gary Moore, that kind of sailing kind of guitar towards the end of the track. I thought it was fantastic. Song 6, I don't know if I will be able to even pronounce this. Song of the Sikilos?
Yeah, so I don't. I'm gonna say Seikilos.
Seikilos?
I don't know how you actually pronounce that.
So have you done a wee bit of investigating into that?
All I know about this is it's apparently the oldest surviving musical composition.
Yes.
From like the 1st or 2nd century.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I don't know anything about it. But I mean, that's as good a reason as any to put it on your cover album.
Yeah.
I mean, who chooses that? As
Exactly.
you do, you do a covers
that's the
album.
thing.
You don't put the oldest surviving musical composition on it, because why would you?
Why would you? Exactly. But I think it's fantastic. I mean, just it's so bold. You know, I mean, you've got, like I said, that. You've got an Annie Lennox song in the form of
Love Song for a Vampire.
Love Song for a Vampire,
which I mentioned before, was from the Dracula soundtrack.
Passage from Herman Melville's Moby Dick as well. The Pequod meets the Delight.
Yeah, and that is just a spoken word extract from Moby Dick, as though you're listening to an audiobook where Jamie Lenman does all the voices, and you know, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Wasn't expecting it, but quite happily listen to some more audiobook narrations by Jamie Lenman.
Yeah, he does a good job. I mean, I remember thinking I did have the opportunity to listen to this in a sequential fashion, and certainly there's another point where he kind of speaks or reenacts a scene from a short movie, as you'd said to me earlier on, in You Are the Boss.
Yes.
And I think that there was a definite kind of tonal change in the album after that.
Yeah, I mean, you go from Popeye,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just this like blast of fury, and then it sort of goes into this dark short story. It's quite intense as well.
I was quite unnerved to kind of put it off. So I got a wee bit scared at one point and turned it off, but then immediately into that you go into this, like you said, the song of the Circus,
which is just, I don't think it's not entirely instrumental, is it? It's there are vocals.
There are vocals, yeah. I mean, I looked into it. I looked into to see what the lyrics were. It's quite short. I mean, I think there's maybe only one verse that I was able to find. So I don't know if it almost sounds as if he's singing two verses, so I don't know if he sings the first verse in Greek and then maybe sings it in English.
I'm not sure.
I'm not too sure either.
Interesting though.
And I kind of felt as if, like, the 7th track, Coda, it almost felt like an extension of the 6th song in my opinion.
Yeah, Coda's actually, it's a cover of a song by a band called Caretaker, and they are a fairly unknown rock band from, I can't remember where they're from, but they're an English rock band. They toured with Reuben when Reuben were in sort of full swing, and actually this is something I only found out last night when I was doing a little bit of research. Jamie Lenman filled in as their drummer while they were touring, so he was essentially touring with Reuben and Caretaker at one point, and that I think turned out to be part of the reason why Caretaker's album took a very long time to come out, because Jamie didn't have the time to help write it or record it. But so it's just an interesting thing. It's a throwback to a different time in Jamie's life, back when he was still in a sort of struggling alt rock band. But it's sort of sprawling post rock. I don't know. It's sort of long form. It's fairly laid back from what I remember.
Yeah, I actually remember thinking it was part of Song of the Selkios. To be honest, it kind of flowed quite well. Flowed quite well into each other.
I think the flow of the album is worth talking about, because even when you've got sort of abrupt changes in the style of the songs, you tend to have a little lead in, which is usually Jamie skipping tracks.
Yeah,
so he's sort of as though he's on his iPod shuffle, skipping through his playlist, and he's sort of saying, "Oh, that's shit, I'm not listening to that," until he finds something that's worth listening to. There's occasions where he skips back past some of his own music as well. From Devolver, which if you don't know Jamie Lenman, Devolver is a good starting point. It's his second album, which came out in 2017. Will give you a good idea what he's about. It's quite experimental as well. So after Coda we've got She Bop,
Yeah.
which is a Cyndi Lauper cover. And probably most people, all they know about Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Which in itself is a cover, actually.
Is it a cover?
Yeah, I can't remember the name. It was a guy that sang it.
Alright.
It was Richard something or other, kind of post-punk artist.
I
Quite good.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I don't really know much of Cyndi Lauper's back catalogue, but She Bop's alright.
I enjoyed it, yeah.
I think it wasn't my favourite the first time I've heard it, but it has definitely grown on me. And then we've got Adamantium Rage, who we talked about before, which is, I think it's a cover of the main theme from Wolverine Adamantium Rage, which I think is a side-scrolling beat-em-up on the Super NES, probably on the Mega Drive as well, but it's an old 16-bit fighting game, so sure, put that on there. What else we got? Handsome Stranger Called Death, which is a bit of a sort of smoky jazz soul bar.
Yeah. Very European feel to it. I feel.
Yeah, it does. It's a cover of a song by Foes.
Foes?
I mean, the original version is female vocals. It's a bit more bright, and it's got a sort of synthy organ and a groovy bass, so it's not quite as smoky and soulful. But it's a decent track, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, second Beatles track, Hey Jude. So, everybody knows Hey Jude. And you think, oh, it's an easy sort of cover, that chorus everybody knows. And Jamie Lenman takes it and turns it into a menacing, doom-laden, stoner, rock beast of a song.
Yeah, I remember thinking it was almost pleading with Jude, whomever she may be.
Yeah, I mean, I've written here that it sounded like John Lennon returning from hell to destroy the earth.
What about The Remembrance? Had you heard of that before?
I hadn't. I know now that
It's by
it's
Jake
Thackeray, but I'd never heard it before. And it's almost a poem,
Yeah.
just an acoustic poem. Jamie's version replaces acoustic guitar for piano. For my money, it's the best song on the album,
Right.
just because it's so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially a song about men going off to war, and it's leading up to the day they die in the war, and each verse is a progression of what's happening to them until they're finally killed. It's an affecting song to listen to, but it's in such a sort of bright way that it's really entertaining.
Am I correct saying, does each kind of verse end with, and that's the day we died in the war?
Yeah, it
or something
does.
To that effect?
The first verse is like they're getting told like, this is great to fight for your country, and that was a few weeks before we died in the war.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
then it's like it's a few days, and then it's a few hours, and then that's when we were killed in the war.
Yeah.
And it's just about the sort of the glory of dying for your country, and how much that's kind of just a thing you're told.
Yeah, part of propaganda, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah.
I hadn't heard the song. I hadn't even heard of Jack Thackeray
No, me neither.
before, but I did kind of look into his music, and because when I first heard Remembrance by Jack Thackeray, I don't know if you were the same, but I immediately reminded of the chorus.
Yeah.
Yeah, he reminded me of the young guy from the Corries, or the younger guy from the Corries, the one that's passed away. It's not the guy with the beard, but it turns out it wasn't him, and Jack Thackeray, if he's still alive, was an English artist as opposed to a Scottish artist.
I think he's passed away, as far as I could tell. But yeah, it's a really good song.
Mm-hmm.
A good way to end the album.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So you got any more thoughts on Shuffle?
Don't think so. What about yourself?
No, I think we've covered it. If you're a fan of Jamie Lenman, you're gonna love Shuffle. And if you don't know who Jamie Lenman is, I don't know if Shuffle's the album to discover him as an artist. It might give you an idea of what he's about, but I think you're better going in on Devolver. Devolver's probably gives you a better idea of his sort of style, and then Shuffle is him applying that style to other people's music, which I think is pretty successful.
Yeah.
So yeah, worth a listen. Even just as a sort of comparison exercise, it's quite part of the fun of this album was listening to the new versions and going back and discovering, well, some of the songs I already knew already, but going back and discovering how different they were to the original, and whether the original songs are actually any good or not.
Just interested with regards to Tomorrow Never Knows, the Beatles track.
Yeah.
Has that been sampled quite a lot?
I'm not sure.
I've got a feeling Ringo's drums has been sampled quite a lot for other songs, but none actually spring to mind. It just sounded quite familiar at the time.
I can't think what they sound like off the top of my head.
It's quite distinct. Like I don't think he's necessarily replicated them in his cover. If I'm honest.
No, I mean it's like all the songs. It's pretty much completely different.
Yeah.
Like that original song is like a psychedelica, and like when I was listening to the original, I was like, this is like straight out of the Mighty Bush. Like
yeah. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Jamie's version's a bit heavier, a bit rockier. Good album.
At this point, we took a short break to compose ourselves, and this is as good a time as any to apologise for the passing cars, screaming seagulls, and scooshing of the automatic air freshener that you may or may not have heard in the background. We recorded this in my kitchen, so go easy on us, okay?
So, let's talk about Prang, the new record from Gender Roles from Brighton.
So this is released fairly recently. This is only 4 or 5 days old.
This came out last Friday, I think.
It's released on the 30th of August, and it kind of follows their EP called Laser Rush that was released sometime last year. I was listening to it the other day. I think the 2 singles that were released from the album are You Look Like Death and Hey with 2 Y's.
Yeah, I think so.
So Hey, You Look Like Death. Have you seen the video to that?
No.
It features, I think it's quite interesting, it kind of features a character that kind of reminds me of kind of a mashup between Old Greg and Mr. Susan from Mighty Bush,
Right.
sitting in a chair. And the reason why I find that quite interesting is because I'm convinced that the lead singer looks like Naboo with a moustache.
Has he got like pink hair?
I don't know if he's got pink hair anymore, but certainly because we met him at the Jamie Lenman gig at the Stereo in Glasgow.
Was he behind the merch table?
Yeah.
I remember that. I didn't remember it being him.
Yeah. So he gave you, was it the Laser Rush EP?
No, it was like a little pack with, I think there was a download code for one of the tracks. I don't think it was the entire EP.
Right.
And then some stickers and maybe a badge. I can't remember. Like I've got the stickers. Like have I got one stuck on there?
I'm not seeing a Gender Rules one. No.
Anyway, I definitely got stickers, and I might have got a badge because I was thinking the other day I want to dig that out and put it on my jacket, but that remains to be seen. But yeah, I forgot about him, but I do remember the fact that we went to Jamie Lenman and we missed the support acts, and then afterwards we both decided we quite liked Gender Roles.
Yeah.
So unfortunately we missed the chance to see them live. It's a bit disappointing.
I mean, their EP Laser Rush only has kind of the 4 songs on it. The standout song for me being Plastic. But there's a lot of really good tracks in this new album, Prang, like we said. I think it was a good choice for their singles. However, it wasn't the first song that I chose to revisit. It was probably the second song on the album, called Always.
Yeah.
Really quite enjoyed that. In particular, the kind of bridge where they kind of break down. It kind of starts off with it sounds like a female vocalist. However, I don't think there's actually a female member in the band. It's kind of a major departure from the kind of rest of the song, and it's followed by an absolute face melter of a guitar solo, which I really quite enjoyed. I'm trying to think what other songs kind of really stood out for me. Was there any songs that's...
Yeah, I mean, obviously the 2 singles, I really like Hey with 2 Y's. I think it's very You could say this for most of the albums, just the vocal melodies are so catchy and so much fun to listen to. But one of the other standout tracks is probably Your War, which from memory has got a sort of weird sample at the start from
starts off
like
with
a little classroom sample, the teacher telling the kids to listen to
soak up music like a sponge or something to that.
Yeah, they're like, let's listen to the words, see if you can pick out the words on this record, and then it goes into a big riff frenzy or rock song. I mean, that's part of the appeal of this album, is just big rock riffs everywhere, really catchy guitar licks and solos, and just really fun. I mean, the lyrics aren't necessarily fun, but the vocals are. The song You Look Like Death has got a lot of reference to someone just looking like shit and that they're about to die.
Yes.
But it's a really catchy song.
I particularly enjoyed Schools Out.
Yeah.
For some reason, it kind of reminded me of Tokyo Police Club's album Forcefield.
Okay.
With that kind of keyboard, a kind of synth intro.
So what? It's got like this sort of weird staccato kind of like synths at the start.
Aye, and I thought it kind of showed that they're maybe more than just a kind of 3-piece kind of pop punk. I don't know how you'd kind of necessarily describe the band, but I believe that it kind of just shows that they're kind of willing to experiment and maybe a sign of future things to come, perhaps. I remember thinking, I think it's track number 9, if that's how you wanted to be, very much in keeping with the songs from their first EP, making kind of maximum use out of that kind of quiet loud dynamic, which I very much enjoyed.
Yeah, that loud, quiet, loud thing appeals to me quite a lot, and I think this album appeals to me in a similar way that the Dinosaur Pile-Up album does, that there's a lot of alt rock all over it. It goes back to the period of time that we both grew up in.
Yeah.
That sort of grunge era, alt rock and radio rock, and it's when actually rock was actually popular, and this kind of harks back to that bit. Not that it doesn't sound fresh, it always sounds fresh and new. A lot of different ideas in the riffs, and the going back and forth between heavy riffs and sort of clever little guitar interludes, and there's like some sort of there's like strange little guitar lines that are like, there's sort of, I don't know how you describe, like rolling hammer-ons.
Yeah, because I thought that as well, but I was trying to, I don't know how to put it in words, to be honest, although it did remind me a lot of kind of the stuff that Dan and Aykroyd did.
Yes.
On their album Hey Everyone, Hey Everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe not quite as technical.
Yeah, maybe not.
And not going to quite the sort of insane lengths that sometimes happened on the Dan and Aykroyd album, but I absolutely get where you're coming from, certainly from the guitar tones as well.
Has that got a particular name?
Maybe.
Aye, yeah, I was trying to think. But no, it's really enjoyed the album. Be interesting to see if they tour with it soon.
I think there's a tour announced, but they may be touring it at the moment, or maybe in October, but I've got a feeling they are playing Glasgow quite soon. I think I'm on holiday when they're playing, which is a bit shit. Yeah, overall I really like this. There's a lot of promise from Laser Rush, and I think they've delivered on that. Actually, Laser Rush I picked it as one of my favourite EPs of 2018, and kind of pegged Gender Roles as being a band to watch, and I think they've definitely delivered on that. Yeah. So it's a pretty good album. I think I need to listen to it a few more times just to really get into some of the other tracks, but certainly the first 4 tracks of You Look Like Death, Always, Deep End and Hey with 2 Y's are all excellent, and there's really good moments on everything on here. Yeah. But I think the more I listen to this, definitely the more I'm going to like it.
Yeah, I think it's the one that'll definitely grow on you over time.
Yeah. Okay. You want to give it a 5 out of 10, Grant?
I will give that one a 5 out of 10. A maximum of 5 out of 10, definitely. What would you give it on your scale of 10 out? 10. A 10 out of 10?
No, it's not.
No.
I mean, if Dinosaur Pile-Up was a 9, this is a solid 8.
Alright. Okay.
Maybe more I listen to it,
it might go up slightly. Might go up,
so, but a solid 5 out of 10.
So what other albums are we going to be looking at?
I want to talk about Wasted Energy, new album from Melbourne punk band Press Club. So Press Club are a band that I only came across at the start of this year. In fact, their debut album, Late Teens, only came out in Europe in January of this year.
Right.
We're now in
September.
And their second album came out in August, so that's a pretty quick turnaround. Well. Yeah. So they're obviously quite a productive and creative band, but I think this is one of my favourite albums of the year so far. It's just an absolutely blistering, catchy and emotional punk album. Yeah. And where Late Teens felt like the music on it didn't come to the forefront quite as much, and it was more of a a showpiece for the frontwoman Natalie Foster's vocals, but Wasted Energy is much more of a complete package, in that the vocals are still great, but everything else is great as well. I know you didn't get as much of a chance to listen to it as I did, but what are your feelings on Wasted Energy?
I didn't know that they were Melbourne based. However, I was going to ask whether the lead singer was from Australia or not. I mean, I think it's good when people kind of sing in their own accents. I think it's quite refreshing to hear that, to be honest, because I think more often than not you get this kind of like full American accents coming through, which I don't particularly enjoy. I mean, I listened to this in shuffle, just as always. But certainly there was a few songs that kind of really stood out for me. Same Mistakes being one of them.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed New Year's Eve as well. Was it Chosen Ones? Where they actually kind of reiterate the name of the album.
The album, yeah.
Wasted Energy.
So Chosen Ones. There's the chorus is basically, no one cares you're giving up responsibility to put your mind at ease, you're wasting time and wasting energy.
Yeah.
And that's easily one of the best choruses on the album. It's so memorable, and I think maybe partly because it's got that callback to the album title. But it's like many of the songs on this, it just comes blasting out of the gates, and then towards the end it sort of slows down a bit and then ends on like a vocal refrain that's just repeated and repeated and repeated until the song closes out. Especially on Chosen Ones, the rest of the music just fades away and you're left with just the frontwoman screaming, which is quite impressive, that they just let her vocals take centre stage at that point. But it's a really powerful album, and at first listen it might just sound a bit like a fairly throwaway punk album. The production job is quite restrained, it's quite grimy and sort of gritty. One of the things I read about the band is that they described the guitar tone as a sort of kicked in speaker sound, which is quite apt. It sounds like they're like a garage band. It's got that DIY sound to it, which I think makes it sound like a more honest piece of music, because it's not overproduced, and the aim is sort of to capture that sound of a live band, and I think it succeeds in that. I could pick pretty much any of these tracks and it's a standout track. You mentioned Chosen Ones. Well, we talked about Chosen Ones.
Same Mistakes and New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve's quite short and it's just an explosion of energy. Possibly one of the best songs on here in terms of just being a straight up punk song. Often there's nothing better than a punk rock pick slide, and there's plenty of those all over New Year's Eve, but there's a lot of emotion and honesty on this album. I mean, the last song, 23, I get the impression that song's about date rape, which is quite a brutal subject to tackle, but there's a section that says, tattoos will cover up, your actions still say so, my body still says no. And then there's another line that says, what the fuck was in that shit you gave me, and refers to things happening in the back of a bar. The lyrics are quite dark, but it's all covered up in this like bouncing punk song with it's got like a Blink 182 pop punk interlude in the middle of it. So there's like a strange tone going on where there's quite dark lyrics, but it's all in a sort of juxtaposed with this sort of upbeat music. One I know what the lyrics are about because it was in the press release for this album, is Thinking About You, which I think is the second single. I think there was a single, I think Get Better was the first single, and then Thinking About You was the second one. In fact, New Year's Eve was the final single that came out just the week before the album, so I think it's a pretty good setup for the album releasing. But definitely. Thinking About You is a song, first time you hear it you might think, oh, it's just a love song, but it's actually about the frontman's experience with a stalker. And there's lyrics like, I'm barely sleeping now, I know you're around, you know me well but I don't know you at all, and I wake up and I shit myself. Whereas like without that it might just sound like a sort of love song for a new romance, but it's actually about a creepy stalker following her around.
So a couple of pretty heavyweight subjects.
There's heavyweight subjects on here, so I think that honesty lends some weight to the experience. And like a lot of albums, it deserves to be listened to a number of times to get the most out of it. But to be fair, I couldn't help myself because I I think it's a really good album. I couldn't help but listen to it.
And as well as hearing somebody singing in their own accent, it's always refreshing to hear a female fronted punk band as well.
Yeah.
It's not often the case you come across that. The only one that I can really think of off the top of the head is obviously the Distillers with Brody Dahl. I think Fat Mike from NoFX famously said she was the only person that he thought was of any use as a female front person.
I think it's becoming more and more common for bands to be female fronted.
You've got the Marmosets, which is
Marmoset's a good example. There's a hardcore band called Ithaca who've got a really powerful front woman. There's a band Gouge Away. They're named after the Pixies. They're another hardcore band. There's a few examples. And I think it's becoming more commonplace and more accepted that female fronted bands are good.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just, if it's not a male vocalist, well, we're not going to take you seriously. But I think those days are over. I saw Press Club live recently, and they're excellent live. And Natalie Foster is just a ball of energy when she's on stage and writhing about on stage. Her hair just is all over the place, and she's just sort of a cloud. You just hidden behind her hair, and she jumps into the audience and gets right up in people's faces when she's singing, which can be a bit uncomfortable, but she's got this I don't give a fuck sort of attitude. So yeah.
So does she play guitar as well? Or
No, she just sings. I mean, she's got the freedom to run around like a maniac.
Probably gives her better scope to kind of command the stage and the pit. She wants to jump down in there. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a band to check out, and definitely worth catching live if you get the chance. So we're gonna make it 3 for 3 and make this a 9 out of 10 as well. No, I was talking shit. I gave the last one an 8.
We need a wee bit more consistency in our rating systems, I think.
Yeah. Or do we need a rating system?
Do we need a rating system? That's maybe something we need to think about a bit more. I quite like the idea of a rating system, to be honest. I don't know if it's of any worth my opinion or my judgment. I don't feel as if I can pass comment or rate this album as of yet. I'll have to kind of go back to it and listen to it properly.
Spoiler alert, it's a 5 out of 10.
So you've made it this far and hopefully thoroughly enjoyed our rambling on some truly fantastic albums. Big thanks to Grant for joining me on this first episode. Please remember to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming episodes, and if you like it, leave us a review. If you didn't, well, just keep that to yourself. Deal? If you're interested in hearing more new music, then please do check out our monthly playlists. We're a real blast each month pulling these together, and if we can get just one person to discover a new band or artist, then our job is done. Don't forget to like our Facebook page or follow us on your social media platform of choice. Finally, we are always looking for contributors, so if you fancy getting involved to help us grow or just want to send us something for a review, get in touch via the website. I'm Snedds, this has been the Scratchcast. Thanks for listening.
It's not finished. It's finished.